All right, we're going to start this assignment on problem number 18, and we're given two coordinates. The directions just say to find the slope between the two coordinates. So we use lowercase m for slope. Remember, we first need to subtract the y coordinates because slope is rise over run, so change in y over change in x. It does not matter what order you subtract these in, but once you commit to something, I did 1 minus negative 5, you have to go the same way for the x's. So negative 2 minus negative 4. Remember, minus negatives are really additions. So we have 6 on top, we have 2 on the bottom. Always reduce your slope. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. For every answer we have, we're going to answer in lowest terms, reduce fractions, simplify radicals, things like that. Sometimes we'll have decimals to work with. It doesn't automatically mean we will be given a calculator. So we're going to perform the same math. And don't let the decimals, trip you up too much. I'm going to change this to minus negative, so plus 5.2. What do I mean by don't let the decimals trip you up? If you're having trouble with this, just think of it as like, what's 31 minus 16? So figure out what that answer is going to be. That's 15. But instead of 15, you put your decimals back in. It's really 1.5. 4.8 plus 5.2. Again, you could just say, what's 48 plus 52? Add those up. It's not 100, though. It's 4.8 plus 10.2. You just drop the decimals down. It's 10. And then again, with decimals, when we're dividing by 10, that moves the decimal place 1 to the left. So 0.15. To be honest, there's not a lot of decimal work without calculators, but it's kind of good to dust off some of these rules. I know we see decimals and we tend to go to a calculator right away, but that one's pretty doable. And with fractions, you will be expected to work with these fractions as well without changing them to decimals or using a calculator. So I'm just going to keep going with my same rule. I almost always subtract in this order. So negative 4/3 minus negative, so let's just say plus 1/3. And then in the bottom, 11 over 2 minus negative, so plus 3 over 2. Now this problem was kind of nice to you. You had common denominators, so it's not too much work to add these together. So negative 4 plus 1 is negative 3/3. I'll reduce that in a minute. 11 plus 3 is 14 over 2. To reduce those, negative 1 over 7. If this would not have been a whole number, then remember, if you are trying to divide by a fraction, I'm just making something up, remember that you have to multiply by the reciprocal to be able to do that math. So this is just something I made up off to the side. This one worked out nicely because it became whole number over whole number. So that's our slope there. That was just an extra example. Okay, number 35. Now we're given a point and a slope, and we're asked to write the equation for the line. Let me see if it specifies. Hold on, I thought I opened. Let me see if it specifies. Here we go. What form we have to have this in. Find an equation of the line that passes through the point with the indicated slope. It doesn't say what form you have to have the line in. So just to get us into good practice for calculus, if you're given a choice, you should just use point slope form. So we talked about this in class in today's notes. Point slope form is where you've got y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And I just fill in the point for x1, y1, and I fill in the slope. So I'm just going to leave it as y minus negative 3, so plus 3, equals slope, which is negative 1/2, times x minus the x1 is 2. You can just leave it like that. There's no reason or purpose to start distributing and get it into slope-intercept form or anything else. So that's that. And then it did say to sketch the line. So when I sketch this, let's see. I would just, okay, I need to plot the point to -3. So right 2, down 3. From that point, I need to do a -1/2 slope. So you could either go down 1 and right 2. So down 1, right 2. Or you could go up 1 and then left 2. That should put you exactly on the y-axis at 0, -2. To graph a line, you only need 2 points. So it's fine. Connect it, put arrows on the end, and that's it. Okay, number 40, same idea. This time we have to graph a line that passes through this point and the slope is undefined. So you need to know what that means. Slope undefined means we have a vertical line. So there's no point slope form if it's a vertical line because there is no slope. There's no number to put in there. So we have to know that vertical lines are always x equals. And all you have to do to get the number is look at the x coordinate. X equals -10 is the equation of that vertical line. And I can still graph it. I don't even have to put 10 little tick marks. I can just say, here's -10 on the x-axis. I'm going to draw a vertical line through it. That's it. For our AP exam, we don't have very much graph sketching that I've seen so far. We've only had 1 year of the test, but it's good to be able to do this, just these rough sketches, but there are no AP guidelines for that. For 59 and 61, we are still trying to write the slope. Oh, this time we're trying to write the slope intercept form of the line. Let me double check those directions. Yep, write an equation, use the slope intercept form if possible. If not possible, explain why and use general form. I'm not going to use general form. I'm going to go back to that point slope form if needed. If it's not possible because it's vertical, we'll do the same thing we did here. So slope for these 2 points, if you're a visual kind of person, you might be noticing like, oh, if I graphed those, they'd both be at -8, 1 and -8, 7. That's a vertical line. So maybe you start this one by graphing and then you say, x equals -8. That's the equation. There is no slope intercept or point slope form. But maybe you're not a visual person. I'm not always visual. So you could also start going through and say, I have 2 points. So to write an equation, I need a slope. So I start off with my 1 minus 7 over -8 minus -8, so plus 8. And I get -6 over 0. Dividing by 0 is always undefined. And so that's also where I would say, it's a vertical line. It's got to be x equals. And then I just check the x coordinate to see what it goes through. For number 61, same idea. So fractions, I'm not going to visualize this one. I'm just going to start in by calculating. So I've got 1/2 minus 5/4. So that'll take a little bit of work to subtract. And then 2 minus 1/2. Now, when we're adding and subtracting fractions, remember you have to get a common denominator. And the common denominator should be the least common multiple between the two. So I need to change 1/2 to 2/4 so that I can subtract 5/4. And I know you might, 2 minus 1/2 is 1.5, but use improper fractions to make all of this easier. So 1.5 is 3 over 2. Or again, you might say 2 is going to become 4 over 2 minus 1 over 2. Okay, so what is the top? 2 minus 5 is -3/4. 4 minus 1 is 3 over 2. That's what I was saying before. If you just did 1.5 in your head, I don't care if you skip right to that. That's fine. Here's also what I was saying before. We need to simplify this. We cannot leave our answers in complex fractions for our AP exam, and also just for simplicity's sake when we write the equation. So the top fraction, -3/4, is being divided by 3/2. So you need to multiply it by the reciprocal of 3/2, 2/3. Okay, and hopefully you've had some previous math teachers show you about cross-canceling. With orders of operations, multiplication and division are interchangeable. So we don't have to make this -6 over 12 and then reduce. We can say -3 over 3 is -1. What's 2 over 4? Divide both of those by 2. That reduces to 1/2. Now it's -1 times 1 and 2 times 1 down there. So 2 times 1 is 2, negative 1/2. Now, negative 6 over 12 is not bad to reduce, but sometimes you get really large numbers here, and then to reduce it after you multiply is more cumbersome. So I should not have circled that, though, because that's not our final answer. So this is the slope. The directions were write the slope-intercept form if possible. So you can pick either one of these points to start with. I'm going to go with the one that doesn't have as many fractions. So I'm starting in point slope form. Y minus y1 is equal to the slope times x minus x1. And then again, I would leave it like this, but I was told to go to slope-intercept form. So that means you need to distribute. So y minus 1/2 is equal to negative 1/2 x plus negative 1/2 times negative 2 is positive 1. So that's why I put a plus there. And then I need to add 1/2 to this side. So negative 1/2 x. What's 1 plus 1/2? That's 1.5 or 3 over 2. So here's the slope-intercept form of this line. All right, a couple more things. Just this one more problem, I should say, with the lines. Then we'll go back over to arithmetic sequences like we did in our notes. So this last problem is saying, here's a point, and here's an equation to a line. We want to come up with a slope-intercept equation for a line that's parallel to this line and one that's perpendicular. So we're not going to graph, but remember parallel runs alongside, perpendicular intersects at 90 degrees. And so the first thing you need to figure out is what is the parallel slope and what is the perpendicular slope going to be. So we need the slope of this line. So you can get that by saying, well, if I solve this equation for y, I would have to subtract 4x, and I'd have to divide by negative 2. So negative 4 divided by negative 2 would be positive 2x, and then plus, well, sorry, we're dividing by negative 2. So 3 divided by negative 2 is minus 3 over 2. It's only this part that matters. I just want the slope from this line. So if I want to make a line that goes through this point with the same slope, I'm going to use the slope of 2. If I want a line that's perpendicular and goes through this point, then I use the opposite reciprocal slope of the given line. And then the rest is just point slope form to start. So for parallel, y minus y1 is equal to the slope times x minus x1. To get this into slope-intercept form, we distribute. And we add 1 to the right side. So here's my slope-intercept form of a line that's parallel to this one, but passes through this point. And then for the perpendicular, same idea. Y minus y1 is equal to the perpendicular slope, negative 1/2, times x minus x1. Distribute. Y minus 1 equals negative 1/2 x plus 1. Add 1 to the other side. Y equals negative 1/2 x plus 2. So if I were to graph this line and the original 4x minus 2y equals 3, I should see perpendicular lines. Okay, now we are skipping to page 596. So let's take a look at this. So 596, we're doing problems 19 and 21 to start. So it says find a formula for a sub n. Remember, that's like the nth term, which just means give me a formula to generate any term in this arithmetic sequence. So they give you the first term and the common difference. Okay, so we have this in our notes. How do we generate this? So there is a formula for the nth term. I just want to talk about what it means to remind you what it means. So the nth term is equal to the first term plus the common difference times n minus 1. So think about what this is saying. If you start at the first term and you add the common difference a certain number of times, you'll get to the next term, the second term, the third term, whatever. Side note, by the way, what if they don't give you the first term? What if this is like, now you don't have to write this on your notes, but what if this is like the third term that they give me? It would be the common difference times n minus 3 then, instead of n minus 1. So whatever this is, it matches up to this. Okay, so anyway, so we're given the first term is 1, the common difference is 6, and we multiply that by n minus 1. To get the general form for this, or the formula for how to generate any term in the sequence, we just start simplifying this. So this is 1 plus 6n minus 6. So the nth term is 6n minus 5. Or you could say negative 5 plus 6n. The order does not matter there. But that's it. So now if I say, tell me the 100th term in that sequence, it would be 6 times 100 minus 5. Okay, so let's do that again with number 21. So again, they give us the first term and the common difference. The common difference can be positive or negative. It just means, do you add 6 to get to the next term, or do you subtract 7? So again, the nth term is the first term plus the common difference times n minus 1. This is just how many times are you going to add that common difference to get to the whatever term you want. So this is 43 for the first term plus negative 7. So I'm going to write minus 7 times n minus 1. Distribute. 43 minus 7n. This is negative 7 times negative 1, so plus 7. So the nth term is 43 plus 7, which is 50, minus 7n. So again, if I said find the third term, it would be 50 minus 7 times 3, and then you simplify that. All right, number 43. So now here for these, they give us the first and the second term, and then they ask us to find the 10th term. So in order to find any number term, we have to know what the common difference is. So the first thing I'm going to do is find the common difference, and that's subtracting any two consecutive terms. But order matters here. It's got to be the later term minus the previous term. So A2 minus A1 in this case. If they gave me the 9th and 10th terms, it'd be the 10th term minus the 9th. Okay, so that is negative 1 minus 5. And the order matters because it tells you whether you're, in this case, we're supposed to subtract 6 to get to the next term. But if you subtract backwards, you're going to get add 6 and you'll get the wrong numbers. Okay, so common difference is negative 6. Now the 10th term is not terrible. You could just keep subtracting 6 until you get to the 10th term. But let's just use our formula. The 10th term, a sub 10, should equal the first term, a sub 1, plus the common difference times, instead of n minus 1, we'll say 10 minus 1. And then sub in the numbers. The first term was 5. The common difference is negative 6. 10 minus 1 is 9. So 5 minus 6 times 9 is 54. So the 10th term should be negative 49. And again, the 10th term is not bad. So another way to do it is 5 minus 6 is negative 1. Negative 1 minus 6 is negative 7. Negative 7 minus 6, like you could just go down, but obviously that's a little bit tedious. And if they said find the 100th term, which I've seen in our AP classroom, you're not going to want to count that out. You want the formula for sure. Okay, same idea. Given the first and the second terms, find the 9th term. So start with the common difference. It's the second term minus the first term, which is 13 minus 3. So the common difference is 10. And then we want the 9th term this time. So that's going to be starting at, I like to give myself these formulas so I don't pick the wrong number. So I'm going to start at A1. I'm going to add the common difference times, instead of n minus 1, n is 9. So 9 minus 1. First term was 3. Common difference was 10. 9 minus 1 is 8. This is 83. Some of our AP exam will require showing our work and written responses. So get in the habit now of labeling things and not just scrawling random numbers all over your paper. Make it neat and tidy and easy for someone who has not been grading your work all year, like me, to grade your work. So, okay, that finishes this assignment. If you have questions on any of this, or if you want more practice, please come into office hours and email me so that I know you're coming ahead of time. Thanks.